Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we sit down here, we're unpacking something pretty abstract, right? Like a tech trend that won't hit for 5 years or some historical mystery.
Yeah, something a little out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today, we are getting extremely practical. We are talking about that piece of paper that arrives in your mailbox on what is, arguably one of the worst weeks of your life.
The dreaded settlement letter.
The settlement letter, or its evil twin, the denial letter. We're diving into a stack of sources today that paint a pretty terrifying picture of what happens after a disaster. After the storm passes, the fire is out, the pipe bursts. We're looking at the industry of public adjusting, and specifically a firm called Alpha Public Insurance Adjusters out of Plantation, Florida.
And, industry is absolutely the right word. Because this is a massive, complex machine that, honestly, most people don't even know exists until they are suddenly just ground up in the gears of it.
That's the mission today. We are not just reviewing a company's website. We're trying to understand the mechanics of getting paid what you were actually owed. Because looking at these case studies, the gap between what an insurance company offers you and what you actually need to fix your house, it's not just a gap, it's a canyon.
It really is a chasm, and the bridge over that chasm, if you can even find it, is often this role of the public adjuster.
So let's start with the absolute basics, because before I read all this, I honestly assumed there were only two people in claim. Me, the homeowner, and the insurance company.
Right.
I pay them, they pay me when things break. Simple, right?
That is the standard model. You pay your premiums, something breaks, they send an adjuster, they write you a check. Ideally, that's how it works. But the source material highlights a critical conflict of interest in that model that we really need to unpack. The adjuster sent by your insurance company who signs their paycheck.
Well, the insurance company does.
Correct. Their mandate, legally and contractually, is to settle the claim. But Corporate Finance 101 dictates they settle it for the lowest amount the contract allows. They are protecting the company's bottom line.
Okay.
Enter the public adjuster.
Who works for me?
Exclusively. That is the definition we need to anchor on. A public adjuster, like the team at Alpha, is a licensed professional who advocates for the policyholder. Think of it like a tax audit. The IRS has their auditors, You would not go into a high-stakes audit without your own CPA sitting right next to you.
Oh, no way. I'd get eaten alive. I don't know the tax code.
Exactly. The public adjuster is your CPA for property damage. They handle the inspection, the math, the negotiation, and that paperwork nightmare you mentioned.
Okay, so that's the theory. And in theory, it sounds great. But I want to test this against the reality in these documents. Because the numbers here, frankly, if I saw these on a generic website, I'd think they were just made up. But these are actual case studies with zip codes attached.
They are striking numbers. The source material uses this phrase, leading you from chaos to compensation, which, sure, it sounds like a slogan.
It does.
But when you look at the data points, it's actually more like a description of a financial rescue operation.
So let's look at what I'm calling the value gap.
Yeah.
Case study number 1. This is in Punta Gorda, Florida, zip code 33950, a tropical storm claim.
Right. A classic Florida scenario, wind, rain, chaos.
So the homeowner files a claim. The insurance company sends their person out. They look at the roof. They look at the water damage. And the offer they come back with is under deductible.
I want to pause on that phrase because it is so deceptive. Under deductible sounds like, oh, it's just a scratch. It costs $50 to fix, so we won't pay. It sounds minor.
Right. It sounds like you're just being picky.
But in Florida, hurricane deductibles aren't like your car insurance deductible of maybe $500. They're often percentage-based. So maybe 2% or 5% of your home's insured value. If you have a $500,000 house, your deductible could be $25,000. So the insurance company is saying, sure, you have damage, but we estimate it's only worth, say, $24,000. So you get zero.
Zero. You're standing in a wet house, staring at a $24,000 repair bill, and you get nothing.
Correct. That is the under deductible trap.
So this homeowner calls Alpha Public Adjusters. They come out, they do their own inspection, and they negotiate a final settlement. Do you have the number there?
I do. $115,000.
$115,000, including a full roof replacement.
Which is a 115,000% increase over zero.
Okay, stop. How is that even possible? I'm skeptical by nature. How can one expert see $20,000 of damage and another sees 115? Is the first guy just blind? Or is the second guy inflating it? What is actually happening in that gap?
That is the million-dollar question, or well, the $100,000 question in this case. It usually comes down to scope of work and building codes.
Okay.
The insurance adjuster might say, we'll pay to patch the 20 missing shingles. A public adjuster, specifically one who knows Florida law, like Alpha, knows the Florida building code. Their code says if you damage more than 25% of the roof slope, you can't just patch it. You have to replace the entire roof to meet current hurricane standards.
So it's not that the damage magically grew, it's that the regulatory requirement to fix it was ignored in the first offer.
Precisely. It's the difference between a patch job and a code-compliant restoration. The public adjuster forces the carrier to pay for what is legally required to make the house whole, not just what's cheapest.
That's terrifying, actually. Because how is a normal person supposed to know the 25% roof rule? I certainly didn't know that.
They aren't. That is the asymmetry of information we're seeing. The insurance company knows the rules, but they aren't obligated to teach them to you during the negotiation.
Let's move to case study 2, because this one blew my mind even more. Key Biscayne. Zip code 33139. Very high-end real estate.
Yes, expensive properties there.
This wasn't a storm. It was a broken drain line, a plumbing issue, water damage in a multifamily building. Again, original offer from the insurance company. Under deductible. Zero.
We're seeing a pattern here.
Alpha gets involved. Final settlement, $225,000.
Wow. $225,000 from zero.
Okay, explain this one to me. A broken pipe. How do you get $250,000 from a broken pipe?
Without seeing the actual claim file, I can make a very educated guess based on how these things work, especially in high-value condos. It's likely about access and matching.
Break that down.
Okay, access. To fix a drain line that's under a concrete slab, you might have to jackhammer through the foundation. Well, that destroys your expensive marble floors. You can't just tunnel in. You have to destroy the kitchen to fix the pipe. That's access. Now, matching. If you have continuous marble flooring from the kitchen to the living room to the hallway, and you break the kitchen floor, you can't just patch it. You can't buy 10-year-old marble that matches perfectly.
It would look terrible, like a checkerboard.
Right. And in Florida, you have matching statutes. If they can't match it, they often have to replace the entire continuous run. So a small leak becomes a whole house flooring replacement.
So the insurance adjuster just hopes I'll take a check to dry out a cabinet.
Exactly. And the public adjuster argues for the brand new floor because the policy and the law demands it. That's how you get to $225,000.
So they're banking on me not knowing my rights about matching floors. They're banking on me being tired and just wanting the check quickly.
Essentially, yes. They are banking on you being exhausted and just wanting it all to be over.
We have a third one here. Pompano Beach. A kitchen fire. The original offer was $40,900. Which, hey, at least it's not zero.
Right. It's enough to buy some cabinets and, maybe paint the ceiling.
Alpha steps in, final settlement,
Right.
$185,000, a 350% increase.
This is almost certainly about smoke damage. Fire is visible. You see the charred wood. Smoke is invisible, and it is insidious. It gets into the HVAC system, behind electrical outlets, into the insulation in the attic. If you don't remediate smoke properly, your house smells like a campfire every single time it rains for the rest of your life. That $140,000 difference, that's the cost of actually scrubbing the house clean, not just painting over the char marks.
It seems like the recurring theme here is recoverable damages. That phrase keeps popping up in the source material.
That's the technical term. It's not just what is visibly broken. It's the total cost to put you back to pre-loss condition. That's the standard. And as we see here, the definition of pre-loss condition is highly debatable.
And highly expensive.
Extremely.
Now, we've talked a lot about storms and pipes, but looking at Alpha's menu of services, it's way broader than that. And honestly, some of these I didn't even realize were their own categories that needed a specialist.
Well, Florida is a unique risk environment. It's definitely not just wind.
Yeah, I see mold damage listed separately, and the source notes the health risks. But why is mold a specific expertise? Isn't it just, clean it up?
Oh, no. Mold is the four-letter word of Florida real estate. The policy language around mold is incredibly tricky. Many policies have caps limits of maybe $10,000 for mold remediation.
Okay.
But if the mold is the result of a covered water loss that wasn't dried properly, you might be able to get coverage under the main policy limits, which are much, much higher.
That's a huge distinction. A $10,000 limit versus the whole policy limit.
Huge. And if you report it wrong, if you say, I found mold, instead of, I had a pipe burst that then caused mold, you might get denied instantly. Words matter.
Speaking of words mattering, there's a note here about flood versus water.
My favorite distinction.
Why is this your favorite?
Because it trips up more people than anything else. To a normal person, water in the living room is a flood. My house is flooded.
Right.
To an insurance company, flood is a very specific legal term. Flood is rising water from the ground storm surge, overflowing river. Water damage is falling water rain through a hole in the roof or a burst pipe.
And they are different policies.
Completely different. Flood insurance is usually from FEMA. Water damage is on your homeowner's policy. If you call your homeowner's insurance and say, my house flooded because of pipe burst, you just gave them a recorded statement that could get your claim denied because flood isn't covered.
So they use your own words against you.
They absolutely do. Alpha navigates that vocabulary minefield for you. You're paying them not just to count the bricks, but to use the right dictionary.
I want to pivot to the business side. The source spends a good amount of time on commercial claims. If you own a restaurant or a warehouse in South Florida.
And the stakes change here. It gets even more complex.
They mentioned business interruption. I feel like we all learned what that was during 2020. But how does it apply here?
So let's say that Pompano Beach kitchen fire was a restaurant. It's not just about rebuilding the kitchen. It's about the fact that for 6 months, you can't serve food. You lose revenue, but you still have to pay rent, maybe pay key staff so they don't leave.
And insurance covers that.
It can, but proving it is an accounting nightmare. You have to project what you would have earned. You have to show your books. Alpha helps calculate that lost income. It becomes a forensic accounting exercise as much as a construction one.
And then there's this one that really surprised me. Cyber claims.
Yeah, that caught my eye too.
I don't associate a public adjuster with a data breach. I think of them with ladders and flashlights.
It just shows how the industry is evolving. If a hotel gets hacked and their reservation system goes down for a week, they're losing money. That's a loss, just like a fire is a loss.
Right.
But proving the value of that loss, that is incredibly complex. The fact that Alpha handles this tells me they aren't just guys with ladders. They're dealing with complex liability and revenue contracts.
So let's talk about the who. Who are these people? Because the source makes a big deal about credentials. If I'm handing my financial recovery over to someone, I need to know they're legit.
They have to be. This is a regulated industry. You can't just wake up and decide to be a public adjuster. The source lists specific license numbers W086218 and the firm license W810932.
Why list the numbers like that in the source material?
Legitimacy. In Florida, sadly, after a big storm, you get a lot of storm chasers, unlicensed contractors knocking on doors promising the moon.
Right.
Alpha is putting their license on the table saying, we are regulated by the state of Florida. We are accountable.
And they have scale. Over 1,000 claims adjusted. Over $50 million in money received for clients.
That volume matters for one really specific reason: institutional knowledge.
How so?
If they've worked with over 50 insurance companies, like the text says, they know the playbook. They know that Company X always fights on roof tiles, but Company Y always fights on drywall prices. They know which adjusters are reasonable and which ones are tough. You're hiring them for their scouting report on the other team, essentially.
So what does the process look like? Let's say I'm that person in Punta Gorda. I call them. What happens next?
The text outlines a flow that's designed to take the burden off of you. First, identification.
Which is finding the damage.
But finding all of it. They use that phrase, recoverable damages. They are crawling into the attic, checking moisture levels in the walls. They're looking for things you don't see. Then step 2, paperwork and complexities.
The stuff that makes you want to pull your hair out.
Exactly. They build the file, create the estimate, and then step 3, which is the most active verb in the whole document: aggressive negotiation.
Aggressive. It's a strong word. Do we want our adjusters to be aggressive?
In this context, absolutely. Aggressive here doesn't mean shouting or being rude. It means being assertive about the contract. The insurance company has a team of professional negotiators whose goal is to minimize the payout. If your representative is passive, you lose. You need someone who push back and say, no, the code requires this, and under Section B, Paragraph 4, you owe for it.
And all this while, the homeowner's doing what?
Ideally, living their life, going to work, taking care of their kids. The source talks about peace of mind. The whole idea is to offload the stress onto the professional so you can focus on recovery.
I like to note about clear communication and transparency. They say they keep clients informed in easy-to-understand terms. Because, let's be honest, insurance policies are written in a language designed to be confusing.
It's legalese designed to limit liability. Having a translator is key. You need someone to tell you, okay, they offered X, here's why that's low, and here is our counter strategy.
Now, Alpha is based in Plantation, but they cover a huge swath of the state.
Yeah, the list is extensive. Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, all the way up to Martin and St. Lucie counties. Basically the entire southeast Florida coast, which is, not coincidentally the highest risk area for hurricanes.
I want to look at the social proof here, the Google reviews. Because anyone can claim they get you 350% more money. But what are the actual humans saying?
The reviews are interesting because they focus on the emotion of the process, not just the final check.
Yeah, take John Schmidt. He writes, David was terrific, explains the process every step of the way.
There's that communication piece again. He's not just saying I got a lot of money. He's saying I understood what was happening. That removes the anxiety.
And Jane, generic name, but a very specific feeling. She says, Alpha reduced the frustration I would have otherwise felt.
That's the peace of mind value proposition in action. The frustration of being on hold for hours or getting a denial letter you just don't understand, that is a heavy, heavy burden.
And we see specific names popping up. David keeps getting mentioned. Anwar is another one. Anna Hoffman says Anwar got them more money than anticipated.
And Brian McConnell calls David tenacious.
Tenacious. I like that word.
That's the word you want. You don't want a nice adjuster. You want a tenacious one. You want a bulldog on your side of the fence.
That humanizes the company, right? It's not some faceless 1-800 number. It's David. It's Anwar. It's people who apparently treat clients like family, according to one of the reviews.
Which is so important when you're dealing with your home. It's personal. It's not just an asset. It's where you sleep.
So let's zoom out. We've gone through the math, the definitions, the process. What's the big takeaway here? If I'm a listener, maybe I'm not in a crisis right now, but I own a home in Florida, what should I be thinking?
You should be thinking about leverage. The insurance system, it is designed to be complex. It relies on you being tired, confused, and just inexperienced.
We do this maybe once in a lifetime. They do it every single day.
Exactly. They are professionals. If you go it alone, you're an amateur playing against pros. And the takeaway from these case studies, where we see jumps from $0 to over $100,000, is that the first offer is not the final value. It's just the opening move in a negotiation.
And you don't have to accept it. That's the key.
You do not. You have the right to a second opinion. You have the right to hire an advocate.
And the source makes that pretty low risk. They offer a free claim assessment.
Which is crucial. You aren't writing them a check to come look. They'll assess if there's a case. If there isn't, they'll tell you. But if there is, they take it on.
And they're available 24/7.
Because pipes never burst at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. It's always midnight on Christmas Eve.
Always. Every time.
So knowing you can call someone at that hour is huge.
We'll have the numbers in the show notes for anyone who needs them. But really, this is about a mindset shift.
It is. It's realizing that the insurance policy is a product you bought, and you are entitled to the full value of that product. But you might need help extracting that value.
I just keep thinking about that Punta Gorda case. $115,000 difference.
It haunts you a bit, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes me wonder if that one person was saved by making a phone call. How many people didn't call? How many people took the under-deductible letter, crumpled it up, and just paid for a patch job out of their own savings?
Or just lived with the damage. Or sold the house for less than it was worth.
Right. How much money is left on the table in Florida every single year? It has to be in the millions.
Oh, easily in the millions. Every single day. It's the cost of not knowing what you don't know.
Well, now we know. If you're staring at a water stain, maybe don't just paint over it. Get it checked. Thanks for diving into the paperwork with us today.
Always a pleasure to decode the fine print.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Yeah.
Stay dry out there.